like to have a vigorous metaphysical debate about the nature of musical aesthetic?
Let's see. Alright, one of these is not like the others. There we go. Wonderful. Welcome, Chase Dunkley. How long has it been since you found my channel? Because I remember your comments from at least a couple of years ago. Chase. My mic is coming through, right? It looks like it is on my end. Let's see. Yeah, I don't know why my okay, there we go. That's so weird. Why is it not? It's like not staying in focus, I guess. Maybe if I do something like this. Yeah, the piano animation. Oh, but now it's all messed up. I swear I had this working last time properly, but no, whatever. So the question is, though, can you actually hear me? Can you actually hear me? I know, like, it's because I'm using Chrome Shared Piano, and so when the Chrome window is not in focus, it doesn't process the MIDI, and it doesn't do the stuff. So, anyway, what's up, Aaron? Can y'all hear me? My voice. Can you hear my voice? Can you feel the bass? Actually, yeah. Should I get my pop filter? Nah, I think it's fine. Epic. We can hear my voice. Okay, so... Oh, and you know what? One thing I can do right now is I can take this live stream link and Wait, where's the share button? Share? Share. Epic. Okay. And I'm going to put this live stream link in the description of the subjectivity video because it is now aired. Okay. And you know what? I'll leave a comment on the video as well. And just say continued discussion here. And I will pin that. And give it a like so that people feel better about it. Okay. This is strategic. This is not self-aggrandizing. Okay. Here we go. How do you develop these piano skills? You play a lot for a long time. And you listen. And that's pretty much it. One thing is that, like, I'm probably, like, extra good at noodling because I just have my keyboard at my desk. So, literally, like, all day long, I'm just noodling on my keyboard if I'm working from home. And that includes, you know, during school, when I was in school, and now at work, you know, whenever I'm working from home. So the animation is definitely not working anymore because in there it's working again now, but I kind of wish I had 3 screens because then I could have like all my live stream stuff on one screen, the Chrome shared piano on another screen, and then the stuff I actually want to stream on the 3rd screen. But oh well. I swear this worked last time, where like I just had to not minimize the window, and as long as I didn't minimize it and I just like kind of switched, like here the Chrome window isn't in focus, but then if I like put another window on top, like now it doesn't work, right? So if I do Chrome, Firefox, OBS, it's not there. But if I just do Chrome and OBS, then it's there. So I don't know how the focus is working like that, but oh well. We're mostly going to talk about subjectivity and philosophy and stuff, though. So yeah, let's do it. There's a bunch of stuff I want to do. First of all, we can talk about some stats. Let's see. We can switch over to this. And, or actually, oh wait, what is this? I like added an arrow for some reason. Oh, I remember what this is from. This is from a thing. There was like something was going on in my editing software. I needed to ask a question about it, so I pointed to it. Okay. Display plus webcam. Full cam actually has the keys. Okay. Amazing. So let me try and pull up some stuff. So, here we are. This is the video. Oh, wrong way. This is indeed the video in question. And it is quite long. It is 43 minutes and 36 seconds long, apparently. I think it says 43:37 in the editor. But it has 7,200 words. If you play Killing Me Softly, will your channel die? Maybe. Hopefully it dies softly, though. Has 7,200 words, and the script actually doesn't have that many words. We can grab the script here. This is the current iteration of the script, And if we look at the word count here, it's only 5,600 words. So how does the video 7,200? Well, the script is very approximate, and what I tend to do in my videos is I write out a pretty full script. It's pretty fleshed out, but then when I actually record, I usually change it up a little bit. I just kind of say whatever feels natural to say, so that it doesn't feel really stilted, because sometimes when you write a script, it's hard to make the words that you write actually feel natural when you say them. So I don't try to make them feel natural necessarily. I just kind of write what I want to write, and then use that to guide me idea-wise. And then when I actually speak to the camera, I just say whatever. I phrase it however I feel like phrasing it. Now this is like exactly what I said, but that's actually because I went back to the script after I originally recorded this shot for the first time and then edited it. So sometimes that'll happen where I'll film it, and then later I'll do a reshoot, but then I'll like want to note what I had done in the original shoot. So this is one such example. This shot was one that I had to reshoot later. The one where I start by saying, when you recognize a face, like my face, for instance, and then it motion tracks my face. Very cool motion tracking. So yeah, script is approximate, but we know the video has about 7,200 words because if you go here and show transcript, you can just see the transcript of the whole video, and you can also select the whole thing. Takes a minute when the video is this long, but if you drag up here, you can just do that and then copy paste that into a text document and word count. And you have to subtract all the timestamps, but yeah, I figured it out. It was about 7,200 words. So that's a fair number of words. But we're gonna add a whole bunch more words to it today with this live stream. So here we go. Yeah, so there were a few points I wanted to clarify. Although, actually, I kind of want to maybe. We'll probably flow into it at some point. But what I do want to say is like this video is more than twice as long as my previous longest video, which is like where is it? This one.
Of the theory.
So this video right here is 20 minutes long, and this video is 43. So this was my longest edited video ever before now. What is this? And oh, somebody liked my comment. Wow, I wonder who that could have been. It was me. So yeah, a big jump. Like I don't think I ever jumped by a factor of 2 before. I guess the first time I jumped by more than a factor of 2 was my first video, right? But that's how it is. It's a very long video, and I definitely learned a lot, and there's a lot that I would have done differently. For one, like all the outdoor shots just look kind of bad. They all have terrible picture quality, and they're all very like blocky. And I found especially during, which one was it? Where was the right Canon continued? Like there's some places in here, like right here. Look at my picture quality on my face here. This is just awful, right? And then it's made even worse by the fact that like on screen at the same time is like a professional photo of MIA. I still don't know whether people pronounce it MIA or Mia. I assume MIA because there are actually like periods between the letters in her official name. But there's this like really well lit professional photograph of a face, and then right next to it is my face, which is like super like blocky with all the like H.264 encoding, and then like my eyes are just these black pits because there's no dynamic range on my phone, and so my eyes are just, you can't even see them, and then the sky is super overexposed, and anyway, it's just awful picture quality. Unfortunately, that's how it had to be. I filmed everything with my phone. My phone's like a cheap Android phone, It looked okay for the indoor shots, and I think it especially looked good on these ones. Like these shots looked fine, although actually this is a little bit out of focus, whereas a more in focus one. So this one, you know, like that looks fine. It doesn't look amazing. Obviously, we have a pretty deep depth of field going on here. Oh my God, I need to check the oh my goodness. I am so dumb. I need to check the chat more often. Sorry, I didn't have the chat up. I had like my notes. This is why I need a third screen, right? Cuz like I need more screens. I only have 2 right now. And for live streaming, 2 is just not enough. I can't imagine trying to do this on one screen. But which I have done before. I have live streamed on one screen before, like years ago, but man. All right. Thank you for letting me know, even though I didn't see it until now. This is what I'm talking about. The indoor shot looks fine, but then where was the part that I was looking at? Like right here.
There's a track called Paper Planes by MIA.
Like, look at the lighting here, man. This is so bad, right? This is so bad. And this isn't even exactly where I was looking at before, but this is even worse, honestly. Like, yeah, it gets really bad at certain points here.
There's a track called Paper Planes by...
So my eye, you can't even see it. The sky is overexposed. And then there's a professionally lit photo of MIA next to it to just contrast and make it extremely obvious how terrible the picture quality is here. So that's great. But it was fine because the audio quality was good, and the audio quality is way more important to the pleasure of the experience than the video quality. Like, I was talking to a friend yesterday about this. Like, if you have terrible audio quality, it can be like physically painful. Video quality is never going to be physically painful, but if you have like really bad audio quality, you have like tons of noise and ringing and distortion or something like that can be like physically painful to listen to, and it will really turn you off. So if you have to choose between good audio and good video, you should choose good audio, even if you're making a video. However, I would like to have a little bit better picture quality than this, maybe. So I'm not sure how I'll do that in the future. Maybe I'll film with the 4K main sensor for this for these outdoor shots, but that will require me to be much more careful with where I'm holding the camera, because this is like a wide angle shot, and it's worse for that. Because these shots were shot in 1080p on a wide angle lens on a cheap Android, and then like the other shots were like shot in 4K and then downsampled to 1080p. And I mean, this is also cropped in a lot, so it's like, right? The downsampling effect is minimal. But anyway, yes, Chase, when I say that, I also think back to that Adam Neely example of like audio quality being more important. That exact one where he contrasts them. Exactly. So yeah, the script for this video went through like a ridiculous number of versions and whatnot, so I can probably actually bring that up. Let me see. And if I bring up a new one, it comes up on that screen. Good. So yeah, okay. So we can look at the scripts. I don't think anything here is... Yeah. So this is like the folder for it right now. The live just has the thumbnail for the live stream, which I feel like is a little bit weak, but it's fine. So this was the first script, which is wildly different from what I ended up with. So this script, let's see, what was the last time I edited this? Can we say date modified? Date modified on this one was March 2021, and it was created in early December 2020. So like I said, I started this thing in December 2020, early December 2020 it seems, and that must be the earliest file in here. Yeah. Okay. Name, was it sort of like that? Anyway, but the last time I modified it was March 2021. All right, so more than a year ago was the last time I modified this version of the script. So then I went to script v2, right? So let's see. We have script v2, script v3, and then we had script v4, which is mostly a copy of script v3 with some changes, but it's not very complete. So there were like 4 discrete versions of the script, but then I went to Google Docs, right? And then here, there's like a really, really long edit history, and if I had done discrete versions of this, there'd probably be several more. But let's look at the first version of the script because it was so wildly different. Like, the kind of thing I say at the beginning of the video where I'm like, I'm not going to try to like do a direct rebuttal or whatever. I basically was trying to do a direct rebuttal in this first version, and I didn't really have in mind the goal of like, I'm going to like explain how to make sense of music without an objective standard, and that is like the point of the video. I didn't really understand that was going to be the point of the video until like, late 2021, after I'd been working on the video for like a year already, right? And it's not like I worked on this video every day for a year and a half. Like there were entire weeks where I never touched it, right? So just for a bit of perspective like that, right? So I was originally going to have this like corrections notice at the top of the video. I ended up not going for that since the video is pretty philosophical, and there aren't a lot of like really like hard factual points that I could get wrong, and the ones that I could get wrong, I was pretty sure I was going to get right. I still will add corrections if somebody really like corrects me on something factual. Like, I don't know if it turns out like Hindustani music actually doesn't use tal for rhythm. Like, but I know that it does though. So, if it turns out I was wrong about that, I'll definitely add a correction. But, pretty sure that's correct. So let's see. Yeah, so I was going to start off with like this kind of thing because there was a video by, I think, Just Right. Let's see. Let me see if I can actually here. Let me see if I can find this. Just Right. Can you judge art objectively? Yeah, so it was this video. And I think he starts off this video with like basically the same way I was going to start off this video. And this is basically why, right?
So there's a particularly flawed idea about media criticism that has gained a lot of popularity recently. It's the idea that we can judge art quote-unquote objectively, a kind of criticism that focuses exclusively on things like plot holes and whether...
Okay, so let's see. Objective criticism. Right. So 57 seconds in is where he does this.
You can make objective statements about art. Star Wars was written by George Lucas. There are spaceships in it. The main character is Luke Skywalker. These are called facts.
Right. So I was going to start off my video similarly, but then obviously I ended up not doing that in the end. And, what we really need to ask is about the aesthetic value, but I was going to go for this thing called the relational model. That's what I was going to center the video around, was this idea of a relational model, which was supposed to be this idea that instead of talking about facts about the art, you're talking about facts about the relationship between the art and the audience, which, I mean, I still think that model is like fine. Like you can do that. But I think that the way I approached it here was a bit obtuse and dense. And yeah, so for most of my videos, I write the script in Notepad or Notepad++. So actually most of my videos that I've made throughout my YouTube channel, I've written in just Notepad. Just straight up Notepad, and like, that's it. And so I'll, if I want to like make a note, something that I'm not going to actually say, I'll be like, I'll put it in brackets, and that's pretty much it. So I mean, like, yeah, we could check out some other scripts of mine. I recently started doing it in Notepad++, like a few months ago, but more recently, it's all been in Google Docs because the script got too unwieldy to handle in Notepad. So, yeah, I mean, like, we've got like I've got other videos like that I can hopefully grab the scripts from, although a lot of them are archived. Oh yeah, Okay, so like a ton of my videos are archived and I don't have them on this machine right now. They're on like a hard drive that's not connected to my computer. Whatever. Notepad is what I used to use a lot. I don't know if I'm going to keep using Google Drive for everything, but it certainly was necessary for this video. But yeah, I was going to talk about this relational model, and I was going to have the parts named like this: Metaphysics Part 2, Arguments for Objectivity, which I ended up not going for, obviously. So yeah, I guess one thing to note is that this video is all about ontology. So ontology and also ethics. So this is maybe a good time to bring up that the point of the video, the kind of main like thesis of the video, consists of kind of two different syllogisms. And they are these. So what's up, Rafa? Hey, I was very glad to see you on the stream as well. But what's up? And of course, you know, you reminded everybody to like my videos, which I didn't even have to tell you to do. It was amazing. I can see why you're a mod of like every Discord server now. Moral syllogism, and I totally misspelled that. That's amazing. How did Google Docs not catch that? Or maybe it did? Oh, it did actually. And I just ignored it. And it also, how did I, okay. There we go. Spelling corrections, epic. So the moral syllogism was like kind of what the video followed along mostly. So point one is just kind of supposed to be obvious and agreeable for everyone already. And I mean, you could, like, you know, it's not necessarily a fact that you take this to be true, but I just kind of assume you do. Or at least that there is some deeper reason that makes this a goal of yours among your other goals, perhaps. But then this is what I actually spend most of the video on, right? Like most of the video is explaining how it is okay if we model the world without an objective standard, right? So there is no cost to not modeling the world with an objective standard of art. And I should like put not in caps there because it's easy to miss that. There is no cost to not modeling the world with an objective standard of art, right? And that's what most of the video spends its time on, is like explaining why we can make sense of art without an objective standard. And then point three, this is like the bigotry section of the video. Modeling the world with an objective standard of art is actually harmful, and that's what the bigotry section is about. And then I say, okay, well then we should not model the world with an objective standard of art. And so this is kind of the moral syllogism. So we can still have interesting discussions. Artists can still improve. We can make sense of our language that we use around art that sounds objective. Like we can make sense of all this stuff. And the objective standard is harmful, so we don't need it. Let's not use it, right? That's kind of the point of the video. So like the one word summary of the one sentence summary of the video is like, even if an objective standard exists, I don't care and we shouldn't care. Now there's also the ontological syllogism of the video, which is a little bit different. And that one I didn't really lay out in the video entirely. That one is a little bit of an extension to the video, which is why I'm talking about it here, because it depends on computational functionalism, which I wasn't going to try to like shoehorn in and argue for in the video. But let me check the chat before we dive into that. Oh, okay. Maybe that's where I recognize you from then, Chase, is the hideaway from old. Okay, Rafa has a bunch of stuff to say. There's a very interesting video I saw by a YouTuber called J Wine King. J Wine King? Okay. He and his mentors try to take apart wines, how they taste, how they look. One of his mentors mentioned one wine he thought was better and more complex, but he felt he had to tiptoe around that more complex wine. Yet when it came to a slightly cheaper, less complex, he could be himself far more easily and dive into the glass without worrying. He isn't doing the wine justice. So like the the better wine was less enjoyable, it sounds like, in that case. Yeah, that's interesting. And I think that there are, of course, a lot of complex dynamics going on with canon that I did not like fully cover in the video. And I think one of those dynamics that I actually wanted to talk about was like like developing like good taste or complex taste or higher taste for things. Often, there's like some sort of like big cultural mechanism that causes certain elements to be revered, like certain things in the canon. And so then you can end up with like this idea that we all have that like certain things are like high art or something like that, regardless of whether they're actually more enjoyable or not, or whether we actually prefer them or not, whether we would want them over other things or not. We get this idea that they're higher and sophisticated. And I'm not sure if I really like that, but it is something that happens. Yeah, I mean, music is better since it's more complex, more virtuosic, but you enjoy it less since you have to tiptoe around it more. Yeah, well, actually, there was a really interesting comment on, I posted this on the music theory subreddit, and let me grab that because there was an interesting comment left by somebody on there. I like how it's been downvoted. Like, okay. Music theory subreddit can be pretty brutal. But to be fair, I'm not like doing like a, like analysis or whatever. But yeah, so let's see. Can I just like, yeah, whatever. Wonder whether I can, okay. Here we go. Yep, you all can see my Reddit name now. Amazing. But this is a public-facing Reddit account. So a video on subjectivity, right? Okay, so this comment mentioned something that was important that I guess I didn't make very clear in the video, but I agree with, which is that complexity, while the complexities of different musical styles will have different shapes, and if you think that a style is just simple and like, or let's call it simplistic and not complex, like you're probably wrong. Like there probably is a bunch of complexity that you just aren't aware of. Complexity itself is not necessarily valuable. Like you don't have to value complexity. You might value simplicity. And I want to differentiate though the idea of like, because there is this like, popular saying of like, it's easy to make something complex. It's hard to make something simple, that I think some jazz greats said. Maybe it was Charles Mingus or something. It's not quite that though. That's not quite what I'm getting at. It's more like, because in that case, like simplicity is not so much about a lack of complexity. It's about a taming of complexity. It's about like navigating a very complex musical landscape and creating something simple in it. But this is more just about straight up, like maybe you just don't value complexity. Maybe you just don't like, maybe there's an art form that's just actually not complex. It's actually simple, and that's okay, because even putting complexity on the rubric, even deciding to put any value on complexity in the first place is subjective. Like that's a value judgment. That's a, that's not a fact that goes on the list, right? So that's something that this commenter brought up, and I was like, yeah, that's a good point. And then I think I sold them like, I'll probably bring up your point. Yeah, I think that is an important clarification. And then the other thing that they mentioned, and a few other people mentioned, was like that point about the length, the like rubric, the length only rubric. And I did want to clarify some stuff about that, but let's see what do we got in chat. Good at music, good at guitar. How do we find being good at art? Yeah, I think like primarily, like when we talk about that, we're probably talking about there are like I guess there are like abilities or techniques that are lauded as being like complex or difficult. We value difficulty. I think that's one thing, is like we as people, like or maybe not as people, but at least like in the cultural context that I'm aware of, like there's value that we put on difficulty. Like we want to see the sweat. I believe is the saying, right? Like you want to see the sweat. You don't want speakers on stage, right? You want to see someone like trying hard. You want to see someone like working hard to achieve something. And that's, we can get into that whole discussion, but it's one of the reasons why I think that like AI will eventually be able to make music that, like, if you do like a double blind test or something, like people won't prefer the people's like human music over the AI music. I think we will eventually get there, but when it's not blind, which it won't be most of the time, we actually will value we'll always value people's music more, because we actually, like, part of what we value is the like human process and like the sweat that goes behind the music. And we don't just value the sound by itself. So I think there's danger to the points I'm making, since people could get distracted by what pros are saying is good and stop thinking for themselves. I don't see how. Okay, let me keep reading. I guess that's where the entire discussion of objective and subjective. Simplicity doesn't imply lack of material, and complexity doesn't imply more material. Something complex could be relatively a lot more sparse than something simple, and difficulty is also subjective. So complex and simple art takes different amounts of effort from different artists. I don't like the assertion that less effort makes something bad. Yeah, I agree. So Rafa, I am not sure what you're referring to when you say people could get distracted by what pros are saying is good and stop thinking for themselves. I made the point in my video that like art, like experts don't have like their like experiences of art, their like opinions of art are not more valuable or meaningful. I specifically said that in my video. So I'm not sure what you're getting at here. What I said is that they might be able to explain why stuff happens the way it does, and that's useful. So, when you have a goal and you want to achieve that goal musically, an expert is probably going to be helpful. But their subjective experiences are not more meaningful or valuable than anyone else's. And what they say is good, depends on what we mean by that, right? So, like, are we talking about what they're saying is this is like a good technique to practice if you want to achieve this specific goal? Like, that's probably something where you do want to listen to a pro, right? Because they probably know better how to achieve that specific goal. And so if you also want to achieve that goal, and it's not up to them whether that's a good goal or not, but if you do have a goal of, I don't know, playing bebop jazz really well or something, and then like there are specific things that an expert will probably be able to say, like, you should do this, you should do that, if you want to achieve that goal. But what the goal is subjective. Claiming quality as an expert. Yeah. Okay, but like, when did I say that? I guess is what I'm wondering. Because you said you think there's a danger to the points I'm making. But yeah. So I guess as you are writing that, there was the point about the length-only rubric that I wanted to clarify. So the length-only rubric, the point of that was... Here, let's see if we can get the like screen grab where I'm like, length, that's all that matters.
Through your personal stuff and culture, somewhat subjective way, like, right? Really constructed, but we can apply it consistently. You might.
Oh wait, no, it's before that, because.
And fair. And you might want to remove some of your personal bias. And actually, rubrics are. Let's imagine a simple rubric, a very simple rubric that has only one item, length.
Okay, here we go. So this, okay, my face looks dumb. Can we get a, still looks kind of dumb, but whatever. So what is up with this length only rubric? What was my point here? My point was that when you make things more objective, they become less meaningful. And the reason is because making them objective, what I mean by making them objective is divorcing them from having human variables, right? Where context and consumer matter. The 3 C's, right? Content, context, and consumer. I always stumble over those, but content, context, and consumer, right? The 3 C's. All those together can give you like a full picture of what's going on, right? And arguably, context can include the consumer. Context can kind of include anything, right? Context includes culture for sure, which is another C, but it's a redundant C if you already have content. Anyway, whatever, right? So if you have things on your rubric, the more objective you make those things, the less meaningful they are. And that is because you are removing like what actually gives meaning to music, which is like the human experience and the human value. Like music doesn't really have value without people. And I think like somebody might disagree with that. Like you might disagree with that. You might think it does have meaning like without people. But I don't even know where to begin with that. Like, where does that come from? What does that mean? And that's kind of why I started the video saying like I don't even know where to begin with that. Like, I can't really rebut that because there's not really a case there. Or at least I've never heard a case there. And this would be the video to go to if you want to make that case, right? So like, where does this objective standard come from without people? I don't know. I have no idea where to even begin there. Because it's just absurd, right? Or at least that's what I think right now, right? So when you have something and you try to make it more objective, you try to make the judgment of that thing. And as to be clear, like by making this objective, specifically what I mean is that when assessing that item on the rubric in a particular piece of art, you want to be able to create a system of assessing that attribute such that no matter who implements that system, the judgment will be the same with the same piece of art. So you want a system so that when I say like, how long is this song to you? And then I say, how long is this song to someone else? Both of you come up with the same answer. And that is what it would mean to make it objective, right? To ensure that everyone will get the exact same value when they assess the value of some attribute on the rubric. That's what it means to make it objective. That's what I mean right now, right? When I say make it objective. And when you do that, you remove what actually makes these things meaningful, which is the human variability. And that is why they become more meaningless when you make them more objective. And what I was showing is that this can even happen with something as simple and basic as length, which seems like it's already objective on its own it seems like you don't even have to make a system, but it turns out you actually do have to make some choices that are already subjective. And so even something as simple as length is hard to do. And of course, like nobody has length on their rubric. I'm not saying that anybody actually thinks this way, right? It's just a very simple example that is more complex than it seems. And so the extrapolation of that is that with more complex attributes, it'll be even more complex than that. And then fittingly, I talked about complexity as the attribute, right? That's like, there's some nesting there. The complex application of a complex attribute, the attribute being complexity. But that was my point with the length rubric, and I don't think I made that as clear as I could have, because several people seemed to like miss that point. And to be fair, this was an outdoor shot, so it was hard to do. It was a lot hard. Like the outdoor shots are a lot harder to do solid jobs on, and that's not an excuse, right? Like if I can't swing the outdoor shots, I just shouldn't do them. And I think I did a decent job mostly, but this was one slight failing, I think, in my video. So that was the point of the length only rubric, was just that you can't even make this one objective without making your own subject. Like, because when you make that system, right? When you make the system that people can apply so that they all get the same answer, when you make that system, you have to inject subjective choices into that system, right? So like that system is created through a subjective process, which means even if on the other end, like people will all come up with the same answer, why would they want to use your system when you created it based on your own subjective biases? Well, some of them will, some of them won't, and that's why it's subjective, right? So that's the point of that. Okay. Okay. See you, Rafa. I maybe you can come back to this later. I'm sure you're already gone. But let's see. Okay. Danger. I just checked back in the video. I'm not sure what point I was trying to refer to. LOL. More a generic statement. Okay. Fair enough. The topic reminds me of the religious argument that morality is subjective and it doesn't depend on the values of individuals. Yeah, that is a usual religious point. And kind of the point of that religiously, for a religion to succeed, there needs to be some degree of like, it needs to create an environment where people can trust each other, and an environment where people can like feel somewhat safe with one another, opposing outgroups, basically. Not necessarily, like people won't always feel safe like within the groups, but they'll at least feel like they have a group that they can side with, against outgroups or whatever. For religion to succeed, it needs to do that. And there's some other stuff like, there's sexual control usually in the history of religions that, which is why we see all these like weird, like irrational valuings of certain sins over other sins. The sexual sins usually get more attention than other kinds of sins. And like, while some sins, it's like, oh, well, you're just a sinful person, that's okay. None of us are perfect, but we can still be saved. Like some sins are treated like that, but then, if you're gay, then you just can't be part of the church, right? In some places, right? And that's because like the sexual control is really important to religions being successful in the past, and so those ones get treated differently. But the idea of like objective morality is also usually an important thing for a religion to have if it wants to succeed. Again, this is in the past. I think like nowadays things are changing. We don't need to depend on religions as much because we have more robust institutions. Not to say that our institutions are like particularly amazing, but neither has religion been. So when you have like an objective morality, that means that like everybody applies the system and they get the same answers, and that is very beneficial towards like cohesion of a group. And so if you construct some sort of God figure that you can all get around and get to the same moral conclusions about things, then that helps you be cohesive as a group, and thus helps the religion succeed. And through a selection process, that religion becomes a prominent one. Cool. Okay, so that's a couple of big points covered. What else we got? We covered that. Factual answers. Yeah, I didn't get into a ton of examples of like what factual answers am I actually talking about. I annotated a few of them. I didn't really speak a lot of them, but there were some in annotations, like that one meme. Where's that meme? This meme.
No.
This meme. Kind of like, this is kind of what I meant by like factual answers, right? And it's in the video, so maybe I'm saying something redundant here. But it's a meme that flashed by while I was speaking other things, so maybe it's worth like pausing on it for a moment. The teacher saying, if you play this note, the music will probably sound better to you and other people within the assumed cultural context of this education. And then it's like, wow, sure, I'm glad I have a teacher to help me out. What's up, Amace? Welcome. We were talking about it, so any thoughts you have? Musings? I think I had... What was my pre-stream?
Would you like to have a vigorous metaphysical debate about the nature of musical aesthetics?
Musings at the ready, right? JPEG of a balloon. I'm so confused. What? Okay, I don't know what you mean by that, but I'm hoping that... Oh! It's Chase's profile picture. I was looking for like some sort of JPEG of a balloon on my stream, and I was like, what? Okay, it's Chase's profile picture, right. Okay, cool. What else we got, man? We got, the 3 layers of wronghood in bigoted rubrics, or just rubrics in general, right? So I mentioned this, like, in here after the Ben Shapiro scene.
The rhythm section. That there's not a lot of melody and there's not a lot of harmony. And so it's not actually a form of music.
Of course, American Indian music and rap both do have melody, for instance. These ideas are usually wrong on many levels. The rubric is wrong in its very conception, but then the actual formulation of the rubric is also wrong, and then the application of the rubric is also done poorly. Because if it wasn't done poorly, it wouldn't work very well to rationalize bigotry.
So I want to clarify those 3 layers because I didn't phrase them super clearly in this video. Like I said, the formulation of the rubric as the second layer. The layers are layer 1 here. Let me grab Notepad again. So rubric argument failure, rubric argument failure. Layer 1 is like the basic idea of the rubric argument failing, right? So it's like which items go on, like which items are on the list. That's subjective. And then how much do you value each item? Right? So which items are you even thinking about? And then what value do you place on each items? These are both subjective things. And then finally 3, how do you assess the value, or how do you assess the like actual value? Okay, the word value is a little confusing here because value is like both a verb and a noun. So when you value something, you are assessing its value, right? So like how much do you value the item? Like how much value do you place on it? And then how do you actually calculate what that value is? How do you assess the value? And so this was like the section on complexity. The section on complexity that I had really only covers this, right? Whoop. Okay. Really only covers the 3rd layer here. And that was kind of my bad. I think maybe I should have probably said something of like, and also like maybe you don't even value complexity. That's totally valid as well. I probably should have said something like that, but the section on complexity was only at this like 3rd layer. So there's kind of 3 layers of the rubric argument failing, and I wanted to clarify that as well. Because I think that maybe I just wasn't very clear on that. So anyway, that's cool. Sick of YouTube. How so, Aaron? Lots of thoughts about objectivity, but it's probably too much to say here. Well, maybe you should make a response video. Or you could join my Discord server and talk in the philosophy channel on there, because Discord will be, I think, better for longer form discussions than a live stream chat. So if you don't have my Discord link, let me grab that real quick. So let's see. So I'll drop the Discord link in the chat in case y'all aren't on there. There it is. There's my Discord. I don't have Discord open right now because I'm streaming, but I will open it later today. So there's a philosophy channel in there. There's also a music theory channel. And if you're doing music philosophy, I guess either one works. The philosophy channel is just for any kind of philosophy. Also, politics seeps in there sometimes. But either channel will work. I guess if you want to say something about general art, then that probably works better in philosophy, right? Up to you. So that's something you can do. What else do we got on my notes? Oh, so there was another point. So I mentioned in the video, like, a lot of the reasons why we might want to, or why we might believe that art is objective. And the first one of those was the hidden brain clip talking about how, when we experience something and we like don't like it or we like it, it's often not clear to us, or it's often entirely opaque as to why we feel that way. And we don't really have access to the brain processes that are involved. And so it feels like, how could I possibly be biased? This is just obvious. Like it's hard to imagine that there was like an actual like a bunch of biases and there's like this big mental process going on, right? It's hard to imagine that. It seems just kind of obvious that this is how it is. This is too salty. And I kind of like jabbed at that with the very opening shot where I'm like, apple juice, far too sweet. Right. Well, it's like, well, I thought it was far too sweet. And, you know, I just said that because it seemed obvious, right? But actually, you know, maybe it wouldn't be too sweet for someone else. And, yeah. So in addition to that one, there was another kind of, it's a great episode. The whole episode of that Hidden Brain podcast. Hidden Brain is a great podcast in general. I listen to it a lot when I like drive to work. Whenever I drive to work, I will listen to a Hidden Brain podcast. Unfortunately, the drive is usually a little too short, so then I'll have to finish the podcast on the way back. But it's a great podcast, and that episode was particularly interesting. There was only that one snippet was about like kind of art. In general, that episode was just about how like it was kind of about the bias in a sense, like it was like meta bias where it's about like when people learn about mental biases, they often think that they are now like immune to those biases, but they're not, right? Like we can learn about fallacies and we can learn about biases, but that doesn't mean we'll stop making them and we'll stop being biased. They still apply even if you are aware of them. And that was kind of what that episode was about, but it's a good episode. I highly recommend it. And it's linked in the description of the main video. So yeah, that was another good one. None of us know exactly why we liked or dislike things. Yeah, I mean, I think we can usually get a decent idea. Like, you know, I can kind of look at the art that I grew up on and the art that I've been exposed to. But it's like, why exactly did I get into, like, you know, like technical modern jazz as much as I did? You know, I don't know, really. Like, I don't know why exactly I got into that, but there are reasons. They're just abstract and difficult to figure out, right? Or I guess they're not necessarily inherently abstract, but if we wanted to make explanations for them, those explanations would have to be very abstract because the actual mechanics are way too complicated to compute, right? We can't just calculate the neuroscience to figure out what chord to play. So, yeah. So, but there was another reason that, and I mean, I guess it's kind of similar, but I in my notes I said like difficult to imagine others feeling differently, which is another reason why we might want to feel that our experience represents some objective truth. It's like sometimes it's just really hard to comprehend somebody else feeling differently about something, right? And so I feel like this is most present in taste. Like there are just foods where you taste it and you're like, how could anybody possibly like this? This is so bad. But then there are other people who actually do enjoy it. And taste is one where it's like you know, literally like actual taste, right? Not musical taste or artistic taste, but tongue and nose taste, food or drink. Like that's one where, yeah, and I think that's why like that's why Emily Pronin, who is the Princeton psychology professor, in that Hidden Brain clip, Emily Pronin, that's why I think she went to a food example, even though like Shankar Vedantam, I think you pronounced the M at the end. Anyway, Shankar, who is the host of that podcast, he started that clip off, right, talking about like music. But then like Emily Pronin went to food, and I think food is an even stronger example, which is probably why she did that, right? Because yeah, it's just like I taste something and it's like it's too salty. Like it just is too salty. I can't comprehend how anybody could imagine, or how could anybody possibly experience this as being okay? This is too salty, right? It's just like impossible to imagine. And I think that's also something that can happen with music. It's like how can anybody like this, right? I think for a lot of people I know, and just for a lot of people in general in like America or in English speaking spheres, like bro country, or like the modern like pop country, which is a little bit which is a little bit later than bro country, like that's like one genre of music where it's like it's really hard to like comprehend somebody enjoying this, you know, for a lot of us. But like, yeah, there are actually people who do enjoy it, though. You know, I think there's a lot of criticism of like some of the stuff going on there, even indoors, but within country circles. However, when is there not, right? In every musical genre, there's criticism going around about like whatever is currently happening, and rightly so. I think those are good discussions to have. What else? We stand 100 gecs. I don't know if like probably nobody noticed in the premiere because, you know, it was live and so you couldn't like pause it and go back. But you know, just in case it wasn't clear, you know, that was a joke, and we stand 100 gecs. It was during this part, right?
Being involved. So when the
So you can see, if you look closely, we've got 100 gecs over here, and 100 gecs is what I'm reacting to when I go, oh, this is too salty, right? And I think for a lot of people, something analogous to saltiness, right, like some sort of like very like strong taste, right, is like their reaction to 100 gecs. And honestly, it is to me to some extent as well. Like, you know, I don't particularly enjoy most of their music like most of the time, but I do appreciate that they exist, you know. I'm glad that 100 gecs exists, and some of their music I actually just unironically enjoy as well. So anyway, we stand 100 gecs. Needed to make that clear. What else we got? Oh, now it's working. Fun. I love a good syncopated chord groove over a click. Can't resist those. Okay. Brother hated 100 gecs when I showed it to him. Then he really got into them. Yeah, canon evolves, right? Remember a discussion with a friend, they said something like, if everyone in the world agreed that something was good, would that make it objectively good? I mean, it depends on what you mean by objective. I think by the meaning of objective that I was going with mostly, which is this idea of like divorcing it from like human experience, no, that wouldn't make it objective. But if all you mean by objective is that there is no variability between people, then that would make it objective, right? So it depends. But in some sense, like if everybody agreed that a song was good, or if everybody thought a song was good, you know, you wouldn't even need to make like a system to like determine that it's good for everybody to apply the same way. You could skip that whole process, right? Because everybody already agrees it's good. So in some sense, I guess it's objective, but that's I think that just becomes a semantic thing, and it's not that interesting to me. Okay, you cannot agree or disagree that things are objective. I don't know if I agree with that. But let's see, the word agree. That is not the word I thought was key there, but that's interesting. So we cannot agree or disagree. Let me read the rest of this. Onkyo, the music genre, would make an interesting video. It focuses more on texture and production than expression, something that we take for granted when we talk about art. Interesting. So texture and production as opposed to expression. I don't see those as opposed immediately. They certainly aren't opposed in some. There are certainly plenty of genres where those things are not opposed. Like those things coexist, expression and texture and production. But I think that there is, I guess, to some extent, this idea of like, let's not try to tell a story or express a specific emotion. Let's just make something that sounds cool. And I feel like that's like what a lot of heavily edited electronic music, like dubstep and neurofunk, that kind of stuff. I feel like a lot of that stuff is like, it's in that vein of like, let's not worry too much about telling a story or expressing a specific emotion. Let's just make something that sounds cool. But I think that when you say, like, we're going to make something that sounds cool, I think sounding cool is a kind of expression. But some things are objectively good or bad, but when asked how they would go about proving that, there's no real answer. Yeah, right? And I think that's because I think it's because of all those reasons that I've already talked about, basically. That there are a lot of reasons why we want things to be objective, or why thinking that there are some objective things seems to make it easier to process a lot of stuff, particularly when we say that something is good but we don't like it. Like, that is the one I remember, like, whenever I would tell people about this video that I was working on, I would usually tell them that part, and a lot of people, when I told them that part, they were like, oh, yeah, wait, how does that work? Like, that doesn't make any sense if music is subjective. Like that was a really important point, was like, when you say that something is good but you don't personally like it, like, that seems to totally break subjectivity. And so that ended up being a really big part of the video for that reason, because that's one of the biggest, like, sticklers there. You state a fact, like the world is round, and someone responds with, I disagree. Yeah, but I mean, like, weren't we talking about, hang on, let me read what you said before. Cannot agree or disagree with things that are objective. I mean, there are still, like, facts, like, there are still facts that, like, we could agree or disagree on, and one of us can just be wrong, right? Like, if you said the world is round and I said I disagree, I would just be wrong. Like, it's still, I can disagree, I would just be wrong, right? And now I'm, like, waiting for a few seconds because, like, latency, and then you have to type something out, right? But yeah. So this gives a huge advantage to the streamer. Yeah. I've thought about this before, but I've never really talked about it. But, like, having a discussion like this gives a huge advantage to the streamer, because latency, and, like, I get to, like, speak, and then you have to, like, complete your entire thought before, or at least complete a segment of the thought before it actually goes out. But yeah, Andy confirmed flat earther. Yeah, sorry guys, this is my flat earth coming out video, actually. Just look outside, it's obvious, right? That apple juice was too sweet, and 100 gecs is too salty, and the world is flat. These are all obvious facts. I don't know what you guys are on. Okay. There's another point. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Fair enough, Chase. So there's another point I had in my notes. The room. So I almost put this into the video. I came very close, but I decided that it was too much. But so the room is a something that comes up a lot. And in fact, okay, so remember those two clips of, like, other YouTube videos that were using the rubric argument? The second of which had that scene from Infinity War where the Avengers are fighting Thanos, right? And it was this, like, deep voiced dude named Evan Monroe, and he was saying, like, there are these things like choreography and action and a few other things, right? He was like, you can use these objective references. That's the word he liked to use, was objective references, to assess the film's overall quality. Sorry, I don't mean to be like mocking him like that. He just has a deep voice, right? So I'm trying to like push my voice a little lower. But that video that comes from is a video called "Art is Not Objective," or sorry, "Art is Not Subjective," and basically, the argument that he makes in that video is essentially the rubric. He essentially tries to use a rubric argument, a little bit of a generalized form, I guess, where he's like, if you only talk about like things that are in the movie, if you only use these objective references, you only talk about stuff that's in the movie and you don't invoke your own preferences, you can be objective. Now, of course, I addressed this in the video. If you do that, it doesn't actually get you objectivity, because the things that you talk about are like, you choose what things to talk about and what things to omit, and that makes the whole piece subjective on its own. But then also, like, when you are only talking about things objectively, when you like, so again, this is like the multiple layers of the rubric argument, like which things go on, that's subjective. But then also, like, how much do you value each thing? That's also subjective. And then, like, when you are trying to make all these things on your rubric objective in their application, when you try to do step 3 of the rubric argument, which is like actually apply these items, the more objective you make them, the less meaningful they are. So, you know, I think his video kind of fails for all those reasons. But he talked about the room. And I think the room is a really interesting one, that this idea of canon actually really helps us understand. Because The Room canonically is a terrible film, right? Like, the techniques employed, the things that are done in that film are not things that historically have like been conducive to good art, right? Like, canonically it's terrible. And for a lot of people, it is also just subjectively bad, right? But there is an extra cultural layer on top of that. And so what we can do is when we're talking about The Room being bad, like, we can make sense of that, right? Because we're just saying, like, okay, the techniques employed in The Room, which many of us don't have names for. In fact, I don't have names for a lot of them because I'm not like a filmmaker. I make videos, but I don't know a lot of like film theory, so I don't have names for a lot of these things. But, you know, there are things that we pick up on since we've seen many movies, and we say, well, you know, like, The Room is just like, it's bad because of all these things, because of the canon that it fails to uphold. However, there is just like an extra cultural layer that for many people makes it a really enjoyable thing, and that's it. Like, that's all we need. Like, that is a full explanation to me. Like, there are techniques employed in The Room, or there's a lack of techniques employed in The Room that are usually conducive to good art, which makes us feel like, that's what we mean, or that's what we can mean when we say that it's objectively bad, right, or whatever. We're trying to get at canon there. But then there's an extra layer of culture on top of it that makes it enjoyable for some people. And then I feel like that's a pretty easy way to make sense of The Room that uses this idea of canon. So I wanted to talk about that as well. What else do we got? Any new chats? No. Okay. Yeah, okay. I didn't know I didn't know how many views this video was going to get in the first 24 hours. It ended up getting fewer than I expected, to be honest. I thought it might get like 300 views in the first 24 hours. Only ended up at 188. But, oh well. I think this is the kind of video that will probably just like have a little bit of a higher rate, like, as it tails off. And maybe it'll blow up at some point in the future or something. But I thought that somebody might have commented about 8 minutes being wrong, and nobody did. But I'll just put this here for posterity, which is, there's a part where I say, like, do you remember 8 minutes ago? Right? It's like here-ish.
And honestly,
if you can remember back to about 8 minutes ago.
So I say that, right? If you can remember back to about 8 minutes ago, and if you look at where that is, we're 22 minutes, 20 seconds. So 8 minutes ago would be 14 minutes and 20 seconds, right? Well, if we go to 14 minutes and 20 seconds, that is actually in the music theory section, not in the first canon section where I was talking about Tchaikovsky. But the canon section where I was talking about Tchaikovsky is only like 1 minute prior to that. So like, you know, if you'd gone 1 minute prior to that, like 9 minutes ago, I was talking about Tchaikovsky and whatnot. And certainly like, 10 minutes before that. Now you might say about 8 minutes, 10 minutes isn't about 8 minutes. But I raise this, right? It is. Because, if something happened like 11 minutes ago, I'd probably say it happened about 10 minutes ago, and you probably wouldn't have a problem with that, right? Well, that's because we use base 10. But what I contend is that in that clip where I said about 8 minutes ago, I was using octal, not decimal. So, if you have 9 or 10 in octal, base 8, that is about 8. The round number that those are close to is 8 in octal. So I was using the octal base, not decimal, and therefore it was about 8 minutes ago. So that's that. Put to bed. Hey, what's up, Alex? Oh man, I feel like I've already covered most of the stuff that I wanted to cover. I didn't think it would go this quickly, actually. Because I think I've only been streaming for like an hour. How long have I been streaming for? Yeah, like the stream didn't start until like just over an hour ago. So I thought the stream would go way longer, to be honest. Normally my streams go longer than this, but this is actually good because it's more approachable for people after they watch the other video. Oh, well, I never got into computational functionalism, which is the key piece to the actual like ontological syllogism of the video. Let's see, what else? Did I have anything else? Yeah, I thought that maybe rationalization and socially determined beliefs was worth discussing more on, because there was a thing in here where I said like we rationalize
each other out, particularly because people rationalize their beliefs. We don't tend to arrive at our dispositions and emotions and belief as a result of a reasoning process. We use reasoning to rationalize existing beliefs, and we can do that with bigotry and objectivity.
So I thought that, I don't know, I thought that maybe some people would maybe object to that a little bit, like maybe we are rational animals or something or not. But yeah, I know nobody really did object to that. So, Andy the mathematician. I already don't understand what that's a reference to, but I probably said something like 30 seconds ago that made that make sense. Oh yes, the whole thing about octal. Okay, sorry. The latency, it's not even that bad. Like the latency is only like 5 or 10 seconds, but that's enough to make this stuff difficult. Two, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, so there's 8 seconds between when I actually placed my water bottle and when that showed up on stream, which means there's actually a 16-second delay if we want to have a conversation, because I say something, it takes 8 seconds to get to you, and then you say something, and then I say something back, and then that takes another 8 seconds to get back to you. Right? Or am I double counting things there? I don't think so. Anyway. Okay, yes, base 6 is the best. We do know that. Famous YouTube video about that, right? Famous YouTube video? I don't know. I feel like a lot of people I feel like there's a large overlap between people who are into like nerdy music theory and people who've seen that video. Base 6 is best. A Better Way to Count by Jan or Jan Misali. Yeah, it's reasonably popular. Almost 1 million views. right? This video, a better way to count. I had already liked, but that line made me consider subscribing. I'm not subscribed though, and I don't think I will subscribe because this is like the only video that I've seen of them. But maybe I should look at a few other videos and determine whether to give them a channel like, because that's what subscriptions are. They're just channel likes. Unless you have notifications on, but like that's a separate button. So the subscription does not actually subscribe you. The notification bell subscribes you. And the subscription button is just a channel like button. But anyway. See ya, Chase. Yes, hope to see you on the server. That'll be sick. Yeah, I think I've actually seen maybe a couple other ones, to be fair. Maybe I should subscribe. But yeah, okay, so let's talk about computational functionalism, because this is like the ontological syllogism of the video. So I start at the video and I say, like, I'm not going to argue, you know, a direct rebuttal to objective standards or something. But what I can do is I actually can kind of do that based on something called computational functionalism, or it's also known as virtualism. But it's also just like that. There's a simplified version of it that really is all I need. Like there's a bunch of like computational, like computer sciencey stuff around it. I mean, it is like a philosophy of reality. Like it's an ontological system, or it's a you know, it's about the nature of reality kind of thing. But the gist is that we don't actually have access to ground truth, or there's no way to know whether we do have access to ground truth. That is like, what is reality really? Like, what is the universe really? What is it at the end? You know, because like we have all these models that we make of things, right? So we had the model of the atom with this nucleus and like electrons orbiting it. And then, you know, as we got more data, we got to scopes, and we found observations where that model was not sufficient anymore. And so then we develop like these like quantum models of the atom, and we have quantum mechanics at like small scales, and we have general relativity at large scales, and these both seem to work quite well at their respective scales, but not the other way around. So we have these models that work for predicting our data that we gather, but they're just models, and we have really no way of knowing whether the models actually resemble ground truth or not. But we don't need to. Like, we don't need to know ground truth. And so computational functionalism, which is, I believe, the main dude for computational functionalism is Joscha Bach. And I will...
So what's going on?
Oop. So this is the video, and I guess I can probably put it in the chat as well. This is a very dense video, at least for me. But it covers computational functionalism. Oh, wait. This is like the super short version. This is the wrong one. Hang on. I'm trying. There's a long form talk. This is the wrong video. Computational functionalism. But what computational functionalism basically says is that we have models like of the world, and what it means for something to exist or not is whether that thing is a useful model, is a predictive model. So when I have a water bottle, right, the reason why it makes sense to say that this water bottle exists is that modeling the world as having this water bottle as a coherent object, as what we think of as water bottles being, which is not like the collection of atoms and like bonds and quantum whatever is going on underneath. Like, you know, we don't think of it that way. Like, the water bottle is like this simple model of like a solid object that you know, is capable of containing liquid, right? And modeling the world as having this in it is a useful model. It's a predictive one. So if I also have models of like my body and my arms, and so if I model the world as having like my hand and myself doing things with my hand and moving the water bottle around, that does a very good job at predicting my sensory data. So like there's blue photons coming in here, and I'm getting the sense of like blue in this part of my field of vision. And if there really was a water bottle here, and I did have a hand and I could move the water bottle around, and the water bottle was blue, I would expect that, you know, if I initiate some action to move that water bottle with my hand this way, then like I would get blue photons in this part of my field of vision. And that happens, right? So it's like, sounds very convoluted, but the idea is that things exist because they are predictive models. And that is all we have access to, because we have no way of knowing like what ground truth is, or we have no way of knowing that we know what ground truth is. Like, I guess it's possible that we stumble across it, but I don't, you know, we can't like prove it because all we have access to is models. And maybe eventually like we'll get to a model that is the real thing or whatever, but it doesn't really matter because what we have is models, and what it means for something to exist is that the model of that thing existing is a predictive model. So when we say that objectively good art exists, or that there's an objective standard for art, what that would mean is that an objective standard is a useful model, that it is a predictive model. And my video outlines why it's not, right? My video outlines like why it is not a predictive model. It's not a predictive model, right? So we don't actually need it. And so it doesn't exist, right? Because it's not a predictive model, and that's it, right? So that's kind of like the computational functionalism approach to doing this like syllogism that says like, actually this really doesn't exist in any meaningful sense. But that requires all this philosophical baggage of computational functionalism, which I was not going to try to put into the video. So anyway, was that Jordan Peterson? No? Where's Jordan Peterson? I don't see Jordan Peterson anywhere. I mean, I don't know if Jordan Peterson has similar ideas about models, but no, this is Yosha Bach. So let's see, where's the full talk? Is this it?
Hi everybody, welcome to the functionalism we developed.
Okay, where the frick is it? So, yeah, one problem is that functionalism is often a term for the theory, philosophy of mind, the like mental model of functionalism, which this kind of is similar, and it's confusing because this says mental world, right? But this is more of an ontological theory rather than a theory of mind. And of course, theory of mind is itself an ontological theory, but this is a more general ontological idea. It's not specific to just like what is the mind. It's just about, you know, what can we meaningfully say about what exists, and we only have access to models. I swear there was like a long form talk. I'm not finding it though. So I don't know. I guess one thing is like if you really want to get into it, he also has done a podcast with Lex Friedman that is honestly probably even better. It's 3 hours long, but it's much more digestible than oh no. So Yosha Bach also has a kind of high-pitched voice. So maybe that's, yeah, because I think you heard like a moment of him speaking, right?
So what's going on? When I woke up, I realized I'm standing on some kind of planet and there are stars in the sky and the sun. And what's my relationship to this? I also...
Right. That's Yosha Bach, though. I swear there... I swear there was like... Oh, maybe this is it? I'm trying to find the right video.
Might not be quite true. I think the first questions that we had as humanity, in which the optic nerves, before we... How takes a bit at this as a system in the world?
Okay, this might be it. I think this is it, actually. This is the thing I was trying to go for originally. Whatever. Links in the chat. I don't know if anybody's actually going to watch any of them. Probably not. But it's fine. It's fun stuff. So. There we are. Excuse me. I think that's actually it. I think that's all the notes I had. Everything I wanted to talk about for this video. So that's actually kind of incredible that we haven't even been streaming for 2 hours. I thought this was going to be like a 4-hour stream. So that's kind of nice, actually, that it's shorter. But that was some extra stuff. And that's kind of that. And it looks like viewership is dwindling as well. So, yeah, I guess when I get into the dense philosophy, that's when people turn off the stream. Fair enough. Fair enough. Yeah, I don't know. I don't really have anything else. So if anybody else has more questions, but I assume you already would have put them in the chat if you did. So yeah, I'll be somewhat active in the comment sections. Maybe we'll do another stream like this sometime. Yeah, I mean that's the most fun part for me for sure. Like the philosophy part is the most fun for me, but you know, it is what it is. Cool. Well, I think that's probably the end of the stream then. So let's see. Can we do this? I'd have to refresh myself on what nominalism means. I've heard of it before. That makes sense. Yeah, the name is about names. Nom meaning name. Yeah. I guess so. I think it's a very attractive idea to me. I certainly enjoy the idea of like the kind of Wittgenstein language games, that like, you know, words have meaning, they have usage, but you know, the definition isn't the meaning necessarily. And you know, language just gets real messy, and like words, there are words where we have a usage of them that like almost all the time that we use them, we're not using them with their definition, you know, but we still somehow know what the definition is and we still agree on it. And that can evolve where like words just change their meaning over time. But yeah, like, oh, what was it? Like terrific. There's a word, the word terrific is a really cool one, because terrific, here, let me open up Notepad. So the word terrific is wild, right? Because terrific comes from an ironic usage, because what it comes from is terror, right? So when you say originally, like, terrific was like irony on terror. So when you said that like a piece of art was terrific, it was because you were being ironic and you actually meant that it was really good, but you were saying like it inspires terror like as a joke. But then that stopped being a joke at some point, right? Like, or not at some exact point, but over time that stopped being a joke, and now nobody even really thinks about it, even though when you put it out, I mean, it's kind of obvious that these have the same root, right? But actually, now it just is a positive word, and we do not think at all about like it being ironically terror inducing, right? It's terrific. It's great, right? So that's a fun one. I know this isn't nominalism, right? But this is just like fun language things, which I very much enjoy. Hence, I had a whole section on language, right? And I think, yeah, my section on language feels a little bit like nominalism adjacent, right? Would you say that? Yeah, I assume you know nominalism better than I do. I mean, I've thought about this idea before, right? But I just didn't remember what it was called. Let's see. What is the Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy? There it is. What does the SEP have to say? Yes. Okay. Because of latency, I don't know what that yes refers to. Can you specify what you're referring yes to, or what you're responding yes to? In one of them, it is the rejection of abstract objects. In the other, it is the rejection of universals. Okay. Okay. Oh, I'm not showing my screen, am I? Okay, now it does look like I'm looking at the screen on the stream, which I actually am. Okay. Yeah. Anti-realism. Yeah, I have to read this in more detail, to be honest, but... Hey, what's up, Sanat? We're kind of at the end of the stream, to be honest. Like, I've kind of talked about most of the stuff that I wanted to talk about. Kind of covered all my notes that I wanted to do further discussion on. And the stream's only like 2 hours long at this point, right? 1 hour 51. Wow. Okay. I usually don't stream for this short. Like, usually my streams are at least 3 hours, but this one might not even make it to 2 because I don't really have anything else to talk about at the moment. I'm sure questions will come up and whatnot. But the stream will, of course, be left publicly available. And I will maybe go and timestamp it, although that will be an interesting process. I'll probably timestamp it. It won't be an immaculate timestamping job, probably, because this has been a little scattered. But that was just kind of what I wanted to talk about. Okay. I'm sure a lot of the stuff I talked about in this video will still get commented on because most people will not watch the stream, which is fine. But I just wanted this to be here anyway and have some fun with it. And yeah, I don't know. I'm still very open to questions, though, if there are. Okay. Well, thank you all for coming, and I'll do another one of these sometime soon. Should be good. End of stream. Goodbye.